Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Thursday. Parts of Canada walloped by a wicked blast of winter.
Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was not expecting to see all the snow.
The storm's a widespread impact from treacherous travel to school closures.
China is looking for reliable trading partners.
Mark Carney's trip to China, the discussions, deliberations, and deals signed.
Grok is the Wild West of AI.
Plus, disturbing privacy concerns prompt an investigation into a popular chatbot.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Central Canada is blasted by a blizzard and nasty winter storm, bringing heavy snow, some 35 centimeters in parts, along with strong winds, snow squalls, and bitter cold. From southwestern Ontario to eastern Quebec and parts of New Brunswick, there was chaos on highways and roads, and it meant delays at airports, impacting flights right across the country. CTV's Heather Wright ventured out into the snowy conditions to give us a true picture. Hey, Heather.
Well, Sandy, here in Toronto, the snow is beginning to taper off for the first time since last night after this messy storm moved through Ontario and parts of Quebec, bringing with it quite a lot of snow and some chaos.
Weather whiplash, from record high temperatures in parts of the west to snowstorms in parts of the east.
I woke up this morning. I was not expecting to see all the snow.
The snow began falling last night and has kept coming. Environment Canada predicting as much as 35 centimeters could fall in both southern Ontario and in the Ottawa area, while in Montreal 10 to 15 centimeters is expected. A number of school boards in the Toronto area shut their doors today, leading to the two greatest words for a child to hear in winter: snow day. But adding to the headache for parents, the Toronto District School Board says a glitch in its third-party email system means some families never got the closure notice. For anyone needing to get somewhere today, travel was slow and frustrating. The Don Valley Parkway in Toronto was closed in both directions for hours, while the storm caused delays at airports in Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto.
It's all hands on deck here, and it's a coordinated effort to make sure as many people can get going as possible today.
This is the first major snowstorm to hit Toronto since 50 centimeters fell during 3 consecutive storms last February. The city's response to those storms called a failure by the mayor, who says cleanup coordination has improved.
Once plowing is complete, crews will begin to remove snow from our streets and sidewalks.
And while snowfall is expected to slow over the coming hours, Environment Canada is not predicting much of a reprieve for people in southern Ontario and parts of Quebec.
I think we could just say kiss any thawing temperatures off from until February.
Here in the Greater Toronto Area, provincial police say they have responded to more than 200 collisions and over 100 cars stuck in the ditch. Another reminder that if you can stay home, it's best to do so. Sandy.
All right, good advice. Heather, thank you. Global Affairs says it is aware of the death of a Canadian in Iran as the UN holds an emergency meeting on the deadly nationwide protests against the oppressive regime. CTV's senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture on today's developments, including the response from the minister. Mike.
Sandy, while little is known about the Canadian who died in Iran, Canada is joining a chorus of countries in demanding for the violence against protesters to end. As anti-government protests blanketed Iran in recent weeks, we're learning a Canadian has died in the hands of Iranian authorities. In a post on social media, the Foreign Affairs Minister said, "Our consular officials are in contact with the victim's family in Canada, and my deepest condolences are with them at this time." While supporting the peaceful protests, Anita Anand said Canada condemns and calls for an immediate end to the Iranian regime's violence. According to some estimates, at least 2,500 people have been killed since the Iranian regime began cracking down on protesters. The White House says 800 executions were scheduled for today, but President Trump has been given assurances they will not happen.
The president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences.
Perhaps a glimpse of some of those consequences, the U.S. Treasury Secretary announced sanctions against key members of the Iranian government.
Iran's leaders had brutally responded to peaceful demonstrations with violence, from mass shootings in the street to attacks on wounded victims and hospitals.
In an apparent appeal to the Trump administration, a video message from the exiled Crown Prince of Iran laid out his aspirations for the country if the current regime is toppled.
A free Iran will work with regional and global partners to confront terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, and extremist Islamism.
Now, that can only happen if the Islamic Republic is ousted. Meanwhile, with the recent crackdown on protesters, Canadians are being urged by Global Affairs Canada to leave Iran now. Sandy?
Thank you, Mike. CTV's Mike Licateur in Ottawa. A new era in relations between Canada and China as the two nations sign trade and economic cooperation agreements to boost exports, but still no breakthrough in reducing tariffs on canola and seafood products. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is traveling with the Prime Minister and shares details of the cooperation roadmap. Annie.
Sandy, the Prime Minister started his day by pitching Canada to Chinese-owned businesses. Then he pivoted to politics. A grand ceremony full of pageantry in China's House of Political Power, marking the restart of a Canada-China relationship that has been largely non-existent for years.
And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order. It's a partnership with new focus and greater depth and a sense of purpose.
Prime Minister Mark Carney receiving a warm welcome from various Chinese leaders Thursday, who said bilateral relations have hit a turning point.
China is prepared to work with Canada to follow through on the important consensus between our leaders and move forward our strategic partnership on a trajectory of healthy, steady, and sustainable development.
Agreements signed today pledge greater dialogue in areas including forestry, tourism, culture, and food safety. On energy, the pact recognizes Canada as an important potential partner in oil and gas.
What we heard loud and clear is China is looking for reliable trading partners that don't use energy for coercion.
So far, there has been no agreement publicly on tariffs, but Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, who has been outspoken about the need to end Chinese tariffs on canola products and other agricultural products, was invited to sit in on a meeting with the Prime Minister and the Chinese Premier Li. Tomorrow, Mark Carney, Sandy, will be meeting with President Xi Jinping.
All right, Annie in Beijing. Thank you, Annie. Now, earlier today, CTV's chief political correspondent Vashti Capella spoke to Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer for his take on the Prime Minister's trip and the balance between Canada's electric vehicle tariffs and China's punishing tariffs on Canadian agriculture. Have a listen.
Mark Carney promised in the last election that he was the guy that could handle this kind of stuff, that he had the kind of secret sauce that knew how to thread these needles. And what we're saying is we should be coming back from China with net wins where we don't have to pit one region of the country against another. We can get those canola tariffs dropped while we still make sure that foreign countries aren't allowed to dump products into Canada and threaten Canadian jobs.
All right. Well, a promise of investment, a new manufacturing center from Montreal-based Bombardier, the aerospace company. The expansion expected to generate offshoots and more than 300 jobs for the industry at a time when Donald Trump's tariffs have hit hard. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin now on the implications for the Dorval-based company. Hi, Geneviève.
Well, Sandy, while many sectors of Canada's economy have been clobbered by U.S. tariffs, Bombardier's private jets are selling globally. And so they're building a new plant, expanding. The aerospace giant brought together a long list of guests and employees to announce the expansion. It's building a new $100 million plant the size of 2 football fields. Here's what Bombardier's manufacturing chief, David Murray, had to say about it.
We'll be able to change the way we're producing to bring more efficiency in the way we're producing the airplane.
Bombardier's exports represent 5% of Quebec's total exports, and so it's an economic engine here, which is why Quebec is investing $35 million into the plant, but it's a repayable loan. Experts say it's clear that Bombardier wants to be able to ramp up production.
I think they're looking to increase the production of the global airplane. They can't do it in Toronto, so this will probably be an overflow here in Montreal.
The new plant is expected to be operational by the end of 2027. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin. A high-profile meet and greet today at the White House between the U.S. president and the woman who received the Nobel Peace Prize that he covets. Maria Corina Machado is Venezuela's opposition leader and in line to be president. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon on why Donald Trump is opposed to that idea. Hey, Joy, so what do we know about that meeting?
Hey, Sandy. Well, Maria Corina Machado says her meeting with President Trump went great. She had asked for this face-to-face to thank him in person for capturing Venezuela's dictator Nicolas Maduro, now sitting in a U.S. prison. Now, that lunch was closed. But Trump in the past has dismissed Machado's ability to lead. And while they discussed Venezuela's future, the White House says so far Trump is content to work with Maduro's people when it comes to reviving Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Now, as for that Nobel Peace Prize, here's what Machado had to say about that.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize. The people of Bolivar are giving back to the heir of Washington a medal, in this case a medal of the Nobel Peace Prize, as a recognition for his unique commitment with our freedom.
By the way, Sandy, American troops seized a sixth vessel carrying sanctioned Venezuelan oil. Officials say the tanker was defying Trump's quarantine. Machado also met with senators, Republicans and Democrats, seeking their support in convincing Trump to help them move towards holding democratic elections in her country. Sandy?
All right, Joy. CTV's Joy Malbon in Washington. Now, tensions remain high in Minneapolis after another shooting involving an ICE officer.
Oh, my God.
Unrest and clashes after the shooting. Homeland Security says a federal agent shot a man in the leg after a car chase involving an illegal immigrant. It ended in a crash, and then two men plus a driver attacked agents with a snow shovel. The man who was shot was taken to hospital. Donald Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act if Minnesota politicians don't stop what he calls professional agitators. And although Donald Trump's tariffs are largely behind a decline in national home sales in Canada in 2025, the real estate market is expected to rebound slightly this year with demand from first-time home buyers. CTV's Abigail Beeman on what we can expect in 2026 and what potential home buyers are thinking. Abigail.
Sandy, after 2025 saw a drop in sales, the Canadian Real Estate Association is predicting some growth for 2026, fueled by years of pent-up demand.
My father talked about his first house that he bought was $80,000, which is now my down payment.
John Gilmer is like so many millennials struggling to buy a first home.
Feels almost like spinning tires.
Even with a household income above $200,000 a year.
The target keeps getting raised as fast as our savings.
Water building up behind a dam.
The Canadian Real Estate Association cites pent-up demand from first-time buyers like Gilmer as a key driver for its new projection of some growth in sales and prices after sales fell in 2025, saying interest rates have come down enough to make a difference. After a 1.9% drop, CREA projects national home sales will climb 5.1% in 2026 and 3.5% in 2027. House prices predicted to climb slightly too, to a national average just under $700,000 this year and $715,000 next year.
People in their 30s who are saying, I need something big enough to start a family in, it doesn't exist. Or it exists in the legacy detached space, which is very expensive.
The so-called missing middle of affordable options.
People aren't necessarily interested in like a condominium townhouse or a condo itself, and they're having trouble getting into like a freehold.
CREA says over the last 2 decades, there's been a switch from building low-density detached housing to building mostly apartments. John Gilmer is hopeful 2026 will be his year to enter the market, thanks to savings, lower interest rates, and financial help from his parents.
$2,700 a month that I'm paying in rent. could be used in much better manner where I'm building equity.
The Prime Minister has committed to doubling the rate of home construction. CREA says it has a sense of optimism about the federal Build Canada Homes Agency, but for the medium to long term, while the problem of affordable housing remains pressing today. Sandy?
All right, CTV's Abigail Beeman in Ottawa. Abigail, thank you. And as affordability remains a serious concern, people in Manitoba will get a little relief. The province is freezing the price of a litre of milk for the whole year. Premier Wab Kinew says the MOBR will keep prices affordable for consumers while ensuring that producers receive fair compensation. The province is now considering extending the price control to larger containers of milk. Coming up after the break, an AI crackdown.
Grok is the Wild West of AI.
The ever-expanding investigation and whether your personal information is at risk. That when we come back. Canada's Privacy Commissioner is expanding his investigation into X after global backlash over Grok, the platform's chatbot. It's being used to generate explicit images of real people without their consent. CTV's Rachel Aiello looks into AI privacy concerns and what it means for Canadians. Rachel.
Sandy, the Privacy Commissioner is looking into whether billionaire Elon Musk's site X and XAI, the artificial intelligence company responsible for the platform's Grok chatbot, are violating federal law. Canada's top privacy watchdog is expanding an ongoing investigation into X and the social media site's use of Canadians' personal information to train AI models. In light of growing global concern over the platform's AI chatbot Grok being prompted by users to produce non-consensual, explicit, or sexualized images of real people. The commissioner said he decided to expand his investigation to address this issue, given its importance and the potential serious harms that it may cause to Canadians.
Privacy legislation as it is currently on the books will not protect you if someone grabs your imagery online, runs it through an image generator like Grok, sexualizes it, and then shares it with their followers.
Elon Musk companies were informed about the widening probe into whether X and XAI obtained consent to use Canadians' data to create deepfakes yesterday. The same day, XAI announced it would limit Grok's ability to generate explicit images. The federal minister of AI says while Canada isn't considering banning X, there is a government bill before Parliament proposing to amend the criminal code to crack down on deepfakes. Sandy?
All right, Rachel in Ottawa. Thanks, Rachel. And 4 astronauts made it back to Earth safely early this morning on a SpaceX capsule, ending a mission to the International Space Station early due to a medical issue.
All crew members are currently undergoing the routine post-splashdown medical evaluation. The crew member of concern is doing fine. We will share updates on their health as soon as it's appropriate to do so.
The capsule splashed down in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego, ending an 11-hour descent from the ISS. NASA has not revealed the medical concern nor which astronaut is affected. An accused sex offender in Lethbridge, Alberta, was released on bail and was then scooped up and rearrested half an hour after he got out. Authorities say Sky Atoa breached the conditions of his release. The court order said he was supposed to go straight home. Instead, police say the 50-year-old went to a store to browse a perfume aisle, and that's where officers found him near a young woman and took him into custody. The incident has sparked renewed concerns about bail conditions.
I believe it really necessitates, especially when it's crimes against anyone, but certainly against children, that they should be looking at very tough bail sentencing.
The man had been in custody since his arrest last month. Police say 3 teenage girls were found in his apartment, including a 14-year-old who said she'd been held there for 3 days and repeatedly sexually assaulted. Atoa is charged with numerous offenses, including sexual assault of a child under 16. And a group of hikers was rescued in BC after spending 3 nights at the top of a mountain. A helicopter reached the 4 hikers after blowing snow and dangerous avalanche conditions prevented an earlier rescue. The group was stranded in Golden Ears Provincial Park, but reached an emergency shelter to wait for rescue. No one was injured, just tired and hungry. This year, the Royal Canadian Legion will mark 100 years of supporting veterans and serving communities across the country, a Canadian pillar that has faced its share of challenges over the years. CTV's Alison Bamford joins us from the 1st Legion branch in Saskatchewan, open for a full century. Alison.
That's right, Sandy. Regina was officially designated branch number 1 in 1926. And besides a brief closure during the pandemic, it's been serving the community since its inception. These walls tell a history lesson dating back 100 years.
These ones over here is just another collection.
The Legion was born in the wake of the First World War and officially incorporated in July 1926. This week, the Royal Canadian Mint unveiled collector's coins honoring the century served.
It's still relevant. It's still providing that necessary cushion or support for our veterans, their families, their descendants.
Henry Subchition first joined the Legion in the 1960s. Back then, it was bustling with veterans of the Second World War.
The Legion was full every evening.
He's watched the Regina branch downsize over the last decade, both its building space and membership.
This picture up here is from the days when we still had like 1,000+ people in membership here. The leanest period was just before COVID, and then we closed right down during COVID. We had to start all over again in 2022.
Now hovering around 400 active members, the Regina branch is the strongest it's been in a decade, hosting sports leagues, fundraisers, awareness campaigns, and leasing part of the building, all to remain viable.
It was a lot of work that they put in to get us to where we are.
A national celebration is set for July, while the Regina branch is planning its official festivities for November. But the organization will be rolling out special events and programs throughout the year. Sandy?
Okay, Alison, thank you for this. And thank you for sharing your time with us this Thursday. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Bye for now. Be well. If you're out there driving in snowy parts of the country, stay safe. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you soon.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.